ìjẹ́rẹ́. Wàá sọ̀rọ̀ sísọ yẹn tó bá wọn mú tó bá mú. When is the meeting starting?
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Money Market Review. Sorry, we're starting a little late than scheduled, right? We had a little internet connection, right? Okay, so without wasting much of our time, I see we have a good number of persons here. Let's quickly just dive into Forest Factory to see what's going on. Major fundamentals we are going to be having for today, and how it will actually guide our decision in the market. Right? A whole lot of us, I hope we're all aware about what's going on in the world at large with the whole. I think this year has actually been a very turbulent year. We've had a whole lot of ups and downs, both in Nigeria and then in the world at large, right? It's been, you could agree with me that it's been a very, 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 well, to some people, we won't say a very, very tough year, but generally it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year. This year we've had major economies actually go through inflation, some almost even at the brink of recession, and so even at some point, right, some economies were actually looking at shutting down. Right, so it's been a wonderful year. Let's just put it like that, right? Speaking positivity into our lives. So we all looking at Forest Factory today. We have a couple of high impact news. Of course, today is CPI day. CPI day. So for the very first time in a long time, CPI is actually going to be coming out before PPI. Normally, the trend is you get CPI come out first, then before PPI comes out. If you don't know what CPI is Consumer Price Index, right? So Consumer Price Index gives you the index of getting consumable goods in the economy. So mostly people look out for US CPI, the US CPI, right? But there are other CPIs too that you should that people don't consider, right? If you check well, there is GBP CPI, there is Canadian CPI, there is practically CPI across all economies, right? Across all major currencies. But I think most people, since they're very familiar with the US dollar, people just look out for US CPI. And because mostly they like, a lot of people trade the US currency and then the dollar, the US stocks. That's why a lot of persons just look into CPI. But CPI in general gives you an idea as to how LD an economy is. And if you have that general know-how of how healthy that economy is, it would to a large extent guide your decision in the market. It will to a large extent determine what you should do in terms of either you're going to be buying that currency or you're going to be buying that country's stocks, or you're going to be selling off their stocks and their indices, right? So that's why people look up to CPI, and we have that coming up today by 1:30 on the USD. So 1:30, we have a core CPI, we have the CPI, we have the CPI monthly, CPI yearly, we have the unemployment claims also. We also have unemployment claims giving us the level of unemployed person, or the number of unemployed persons in the US, giving us the number of unemployed persons in the US. So it's going to be a very, very, very volatile day today. It's going to be a very, very volatile day today, right? So I don't know if we should dive into a little bit of fundamentals. Okay, let's just go into the chart. We've wasted enough time. If there is time after the analysis, we probably will just look into what's currently happening in the world at large, and then just rub minds together to determine how most of the, especially the war going on in Palestine, right, at this point in time, how that would affect the global markets and how you should use that to your advantage, right? So, but the first instrument we're actually going to be treating today is the dollar index, right? We're going to be treating the dollar index. So majorly, of course, whenever you have high or high impact news, especially the likes of CPI, FOMC, you have NFP coming out in a particular day, most likely what you see is that you see more of a ranging market. Price just bounce between a particular resistance point or between a particular price zone to a bottom price zone for a while, depending on when that news comes out. And then once there is a breakout, you might actually now see a clear direction of price, right? Or once that news comes out, you can now see a clear direction of price. So technically speaking, this morning, I'm most likely going to be looking out for a buy, right? Because of course, sentiment around the market now is actually in favor of the dollar. US currency on its own, though the US have actually been facing a whole lot of downtime, right? They've been facing a whole lot of downtime. That was since the beginning of the year, right? We had the issues of inflation, we had people losing their jobs, and just a lot. Then we had the US debt ceiling, where they were talking of increasing the amount of money the US can actually borrow. So it wasn't really a good year for the US. But over time, I think within the past 2-3 months now, the US has actually tried to pick up strength, right? The US has actually tried to pick up strength. So if you but not so much of strength, because if you look at it, comparing Euro USD and the likes of GBP USD, you could see steady downtrends. You could see steady downtrends on the likes of GBP USD and Euro USD. You could see steady downtrends. So let me share my MT4 so that we could also follow along, right? So GBP USD, on GBP USD, you could see steady downtrend. Euro USD also, we have a steady uptrend. So is okay, no, on a daily time frame, if you look at it closely, we have here a downtrend, right, which had been playing out for a while. But in recent time, that's within the past, I think from the beginning of last month up until this month, right, the dollar has actually been gaining strength. And US being the world reserve currency, they're trying everything in their power to ensure that the US still keeps its strength as the world reserve currency. And in coming times, you might still actually see the dollar still try to gain strength, or still try to stay at aloof other currency. That's why you're seeing you see this push down, you see this push up on the dollar index, right? But for this morning, I'm actually going to be looking at dollar index technically. So you could see that dollar index is actually bouncing off this particular support zone, right? So this support zone has tested price 1, 2, and 3 major testing, right? Price has been tested here majorly 3 times. So I expect that, and if you check your stochastic, right, if you check your stochastic on the chart, you can see that here your stochastic has already established a golden cross, and also it's at your oversold region, right? it's at your oversold region. So definitely from your oversold region, the best possibility for you is actually for you to take a buy. So I'd want to do well by doing an instant buy. I'd go in for an instant buy on my USD IDX and then target a take profit at price level 105.675, 105.675. 105.675. So I'll do an instant buy, have my take profit at 105.675. Then of course I'd have my stop loss if price break below this support zone, right? Below this support zone. But technically my preference is actually a buy. So have your stop loss here. Let me give my stop loss a bright red, so we can follow along. Okay, perfect. So you could have your stop loss somewhere around here, around 105.181. Have your stop loss around that point, right? So that's my preference for USD IDX. Of course, news is coming out on the dollar, and already sentiment is going to go in favor of the dollar. Definitely you get sentiment in favor of the dollar, and that should actually push the dollar to an upward move. And then technically speaking, also you also have every indication pointing out for a buy on USD IDX. Pointing out for a buy on USD IDX. So that being said, let's look at GBP USD. Let's look at GBP USD. So for GBP USD, this is GBP USD on a daily time frame. You've had this down move for a long time, and then price actually got to this point and started having a rebound, right? Price got to this point. I was actually expecting GBP USD to get all the way down here, right? All the way down here. Let me point that out, all the way down here. But will I say fortunately or unfortunately, it started getting a rebound. And if you see where this place where price got a rebound, right, there had been a whole lot of struggle around that point. That was somewhat around February. So somewhat around February, we had price struggle at around that point. So getting down there again, we had a reversal. So I'm expecting or we're hoping that this is a complete reversal. If this is a complete reversal of price, then you see price go up all the way to where it came from, where it fell from. So price actually fell from this top here. So if this is a full reversal, then you might see price actually break all above to this point. So, and that will be determinant on if price is able to break my trend line here. So you could see this trend line serving as a dynamic resistance for price, catching my lower highs. So catching my lower highs, this is serving as a dynamic resistance for price, catching my lower high. So this high point, and then this high point that is lower than the previous one, and then this other one now lower than the previous one. So if price is able to break above this, then definitely you should be getting a complete reversal of price. You should be getting a complete, and you see price is currently struggling at around that point. So if you're going to a daily a 1 hour time frame, let's get on a 1 hour time frame so we could get a closer entry. So this is my trend line serving as my rejection point for price on a 1 hour time frame. So definitely that point will mark as my stop loss. Should I be going for an instant sell, right? That point will serve as my stop loss. Though this is going to be a very short trade because I'm looking at targeting this point here. All right, let me give that a green. I'm targeting the next support. Just give that a green. So I'm targeting my next support here. So you could go in for an instant sell, targeting the next support. So instant sell, price, take profit price will be at 1.22786. 1.22786. Take profit will be at 1.22786. 1.22786. I'd put my take profit at around there. And like I said already, should price break above this line, my trend line, definitely I just want to just cut out that trade. I put my stop loss somewhere around here. Okay. I think I already have a red line here. Let me just pick up my, okay, Control Z. So I'd just definitely put my stop loss somewhere around here at price level. I put my stop loss at price level 1.23445. 1.23445. So should price break above that point, then you might just want to cut out that trade. right? You might just want to cut out that trade. But my preference on this instrument is a sell, technically speaking, right? And if you also look at your RSI here, your RSI is just rebounding off my overbought region. So it's pushing down, and definitely you would want to follow your RSI down until it gets to the 30 RSI level. So my preference is a sell. GBP USD is sell. Right. So let's also look at Euro USD. Euro USD, we have almost the same move on GBP USD, where you've had price rebounding. This is on a daily time frame, so you could see that clear downtrend as a result of the strength in the dollar, and then we are having this little rebound. So just like I said on GBP USD, should price break this trend line, I always like using my trend line to get my dynamic, to get the trend pattern of price, to get the trend pattern of price. So I have my rejection here, I have a second rejection here, and I have a third one currently playing out here. So definitely, if price is able to break above that point, you should get a full reversal. You should get a full reversal. So that's on a daily time frame. So let's come to a 1 hour time frame. So you could see that you have a similar chart with what is playing out on GBP USD. So definitely, you just know that this is just a clear cut trade. Right, it's just a clear-cut trade, very, very similar to what is happening on GBP USD. Very, very, very similar move. So if I'm going to be taking a trade on this, I'd also want to do an instant sell on Euro USD, taking my profit before this support. So when I say before the support, I don't mean you should put your take profit point on that support zone. You should look for a point before that support zone. So the support is at 1.05944, 1.05944. You could decide to leave your stop loss, your take profit there, but personally, I wouldn't want to stretch my log that far. I want price to hit my take profit, and then I'm out of the market in case there is a rebound of price, right? It's just the smart thing to do. That's what you do as a smart trader. You understand? So so you have this is my take profit point. Then what I'm willing to risk on that trade is this. So I'd have my stop loss at price level 1.06418, 1.06418, 1.06418, 1.06418. You could have your stop loss at around that point, right? So someone is saying my risk to reward ratio on USD JPY. I've not gone to USD JPY. So who is this person? Emmanuel, please stop misleading the crowd, please. And don't type anything without, if you're not asking a question. So I've not done USD JPY. So let's go into USD JPY. Let's go into USD JPY. So for USD JPY, I like to look at the overall view of the market that's going to a daily time frame, and that will to a large extent guide me through on what I'll do on a smaller time frame. So on a daily time frame, you see price rebounding off this point. You could see price trading in between this region. So if it has been ranging in between this region, you could just tell that on a 1 hour time frame, that range will be a very long one. So if you go to a 1 hour time frame and follow up that horizontal line I just pulled up. So this is the horizontal line I drew on a daily time frame. So you could see price clearly ranging in between this region. Price has been clearly ranging in between this region for how many days? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days now, right? It's been 7 days in a row, price ranging in between this region. So definitely price might still continue to range in between this region. So every trade I'm going to be taking will still be in between this point, right? Except the fundamental from CPI is strong enough to push price either above or below. But if you look at it very well, there's still clear opportunity for you to take good entry, right? There's still clear opportunity to take good entry. So for USD JPY today, I'm looking at using candlestick formation, but looking at it, there's no special candlestick to actually indicate that there's actually going to be a clear-cut buy or a clear-cut sell in this market, right? So there is no special candlestick at a support zone or at a resistance zone on this chart, right? So that one is totally ruled out. So if you look at your RSI is your stochastic rather, your stochastic is approaching 20. It's almost close to 20, right? It's giving me that it has oversold. right? My stochastic is close to 20, giving me that it has oversold and most likely will start to buy. But if you look at your chart, even if I'm going to be taking a buy at this point, it wouldn't really make sense, right? It wouldn't really make sense, except I'm using a very, very, very high lot size. And because this is USD JPY, if I'm going to be taking a buy just based on what's technically saying, just based on what my stochastic is saying, I wouldn't be really taking a profitable trade. You might actually make profit from the trade, but it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. What you'll be making from that trade wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. So in this scenario, what I'll just advise to do is to try and trade the breakout instead, right? So I'd use pending order instead of an instant execution on this trade. I'd rather use pending order. So I'd go in for a buy if price breaks above, if price is able to comfortably break above price level 149.268. So if price is able to comfortably break above that point, you could go in for a buy, right? You could go in for a buy. So I still feel price might actually buy because we have high impact news coming out on the dollar, and then no news coming out on the JPY. We had news on the JPY earlier today. Let me confirm that. Let's go back to Forex Factory. Okay, no, we didn't have news on JPY. So the only news we are having is for USD. So most likely the market might tilt in the direction of the USD. So my preference is still a buy, but I'd want to buy if price goes above price level 149.268, then take my profit at price level 149.566. 149.566. I take my profit at around that point. But alternatively, because you're definitely going to be getting a very slow market up until 130, a slow market up until 130. So alternatively, if the news comes out and it comes out against the dollar, then definitely you'll see a push down on USD JPY. So alternatively, I'll go in for a sell if price breaks below 148.970, right? I'll go in for a sell if price breaks below 148.970, and then take my sell just before the support zone at 148.568, just before the support zone at 148.970. So that's my preference for USD JPY, right? That's my preference for USD JPY. So I'm going to just be treating USD pair, right? USD pair, because of course that's where we have the major bulk of fundamentals coming out. This chart is too noisy. Let me see if I can clear out my USD CHF chart. Okay, I need to open another USD CHF chart. Right, okay, so let's just skip USD CHF. Let's go to USD CAD. Let's go to USD CAD. For USD CAD, okay, sorry, let me take out my lines from previous analysis. Let's take out my lines from previous analysis. Okay, and money flow index, do we need that? Okay, I'm going to take out my money flow index. I think stochastic is enough to determine what we need to do in the market for today. So for USD CAD, this is on a daily time frame. You could see this till in the direction of the card, right? It's not, I think the dollar on its own of recent for the past few days, though last month was a good month for the dollar, but I think this month actually started up with a little bit of rebound for the dollar losing a little bit of strength. You know, they've been pouring in a whole lot of money into the Russia-Ukraine war, and then trying to boof up their defense budget in anticipation of the war against China. And of course, that's really hitting hard on their economy, right? That's really hitting hard on their economy in recent time, right? So definitely, if the news comes out and the CPI comes out positive in favor of the dollar, at least that will give the dollar a little bit of breathing space from the major fall it has been experiencing for the past few days now. For the major this thing has been experiencing for the past few days now. So let's just go to a 1 hour time frame on USD CAD. On USD CAD, you could actually see that price has actually been ranging between here and then ranging in between here, right? So definitely price might still continue to range in between this region, depending on the volatility that comes with the depending on the volatility that comes with the CPI news. But for this particular instrument, if you look at it, it's clearly on its support. My RSI 2 is also bouncing off a support, almost forming a golden cross. Yeah, you could see my golden cross is almost established at this point here. My golden cross is almost established at this point here. So, and definitely I'd want to stick out my neck for a buy on USD CAD, also in favor of the dollar. I'd want to stick out my neck for a buy, right? So you could do a buy at current market price. You could do a buy at current market price and then write the buy up until 1.36200, 1.36200. So that would be my that's where the next resistance is. So I'd want to take my profit before that resistance point. So the resistance is at 1.36200, right? So I'd want to take my profit before that resistance point, then have my stop loss, right? Have my stop loss below this support here. So I'd have my stop loss below this support at price level. Let me change that to bright red. Okay, so I'd have my stop loss at price level 1.35622, 1.35622, 1.35622. I'd have my stop loss at around that point. Have my stop loss at around that point. So that's for USD CAD. That's for USD CAD. That's for USD CAD. So let's look at commodities. Let's look at commodities. First commodity we'll be looking at is gold. First commodity we'll be looking at is gold. I think we are just going to be looking at gold. We're just going to be looking at gold because I don't think CPI might actually affect oil. Consumer price index, I think, should this affect oil? Okay, wait. So I'm just going to be looking at gold. I'm very certain it will affect gold. But for oil, oil on its own for this recent time has actually been moving based on just fundamental, based on demand and supply chain, right? Saudi Arabia has actually been looking at cutting supply, right? And major OPEC at large has actually been looking at cutting supply, and that has been pushing up the demand for oil. And also, there's speculation that oil might actually get to $150 per barrel in no distant time. So I'm just going to leave oil out of the equation and let's just treat gold, since that will be directly affected by the CPI. So for gold, we've had a whole lot of push up on gold as a result of the weakness in the dollar. And aside that, gold is also more of a money reserve, where people actually buy gold to reserve the value of their money, right? Especially when the dollar is not doing well. The dollar is more like, the gold is more like an alternative to dollar. So if dollar is not doing well, I could easily just buy and hold on to gold and then resell when the economy is doing better, so that I don't lose the value of my money. So, and of course, a lot of investors has actually been looking up to getting gold. And aside that, gold, the demand for gold at large, in the world at large, has actually propped up. You have the likes of BRICS trying to get enough gold in their reserve. BRICS is trying to back up their currency by natural resources, right? Which gold is also included. So in coming time, we might actually see the price of gold plunge higher, in as much as the dollar is not there to weigh it down. You might actually see the price of gold naturally just keep soaring high, right? So, but this is on a daily time frame. You could see that push up in gold. And even when the war started in Palestine, you could see it's gold went so high, it even gave a gap up. And just like the natural order, we're all thinking that once you have a gap up like this on a particular instrument, you expect that price will come back and cover that gap. But that was not the case, right? That was not the case, because there is a very, very major fundamental pushing gold at this point in time, and it might continue to push up. So I don't see gold covering this gap in any near time now. It might just continue to keep pushing up. So that being said, my preference on gold will still be more of it's still going to be more of a further buy. But for today, the CPI might actually weigh on it a little. Right, for today, the CPI might weigh on it a little. So you could see gold actually at this resistance point. if not even breaking above. Okay, still struggling at this resistance point. So this the last point time gold got to that point was around the 27th of September, right? Price tested that point, 27th and the 29th of September. That was the last time price actually tested that point, and it is currently around this point. So I'm looking at the little retracement for gold this morning, right? A little retracement. So I'm going to go in for a sell instead. So going for a sell, you could do an instant sell because it's actually going to be a very short one. And then if you look closely, there is a resistance point here, right? This resistance point is now serving as a support. So this resistance happened somewhat, that was yesterday. We had a resistance point here, resisting price from pushing up. But I think earlier of this morning, price was able to break above that point. So that resistance, which is now a turncoat resistance, is now going to be serving as a support for price. So I most likely will be going in for a sell, taking my profits at that resistance point or before that resistance point. Like I said, it's going to be a short trade. I wouldn't bank on you holding on to that trade for a very long time, because the overall direction of gold might actually push up in coming days, right? So I have my instant sell on gold, take my profit before price level 1874.38, 1874.38. 1874.38. And of course, you wouldn't want to miss out on your stop loss, right? Let me give this a green and then give this a green. Okay, so, and then of course you wouldn't want to miss out on your stop loss by putting your stop loss above that resistance point. So you might just want to give it a few pip above that resistance point, putting your stop loss at price level 1885.84, 1885.84, 1885.84. It's a very short trade, but it's gold. Gold is actually much more profitable than currency. And if you have a good lot size, definitely you'll be making good money from it, right? If you have a good lot size on that trade, definitely you'll be making good money from it. So like I said, we're going to skip oil and let's just go down to indices. Let's go down to indices. So the funny thing is we have almost the same pattern we have almost the same trading pattern on indices like we saw on gold, right? Indices has also been pushing up because there's a lot of uncertainty around the US dollar at this point in time. There's a whole lot of uncertainty around the US dollar at this point in time. So most investors are looking at pushing their funds into gold, right? Most investors are looking at pushing their funds into gold and into commodities. And if you look at it, commodities or indices has actually been doing well, right? So let's just use this opportunity to go down to how the war is actually affecting the stock market at large. So of course, we all know that indices are shares from different companies coming together to form one index, which we trade as one, right? So for the likes of US 100, you have tech companies, you have pharmaceutical companies, you have service producing companies. But currently, what is pushing most of the US indices is the weapons manufacturing company. The weapons manufacturing company. Do you know that US as a whole has made a whole lot of money from this war? Weapon manufacturing companies have made a whole lot of money because, in short, this is the best time for them to test the weapons that they've been making for a long time. You know, they've been doing simulations of how these weapons would work in real life scenario or real life situations. But now is actually a good time for them to test it in the field, right? It's a good time, and a lot of countries are patronizing them, right? A lot of countries are patronizing most of these weapon manufacturing company, right? Israel on its own is one of the hub for weapon manufacturing. So, and they've been making a whole lot of money from it, right? So, of recent, there was this weapons manufacturing company that did an ad. They did an advert, right? With they're specialized in making they're specialized in making drones, right? And enhanced drones that could actually fire on command, right? That could send missiles on command. So they were able to use ad, right, of this drone in live action in Ukraine. So that's crazy, right? They showed the drone in live action in Ukraine, and that, of course, tell me why that drone will not sell. So a lot of weapons manufacturing companies are making money from it, and then, of course, aside the weapon manufacturing companies making money from it, energy sectors are also making money from it. The people into uranium, people into nuclear plants, and all of that are actually going to be in hot business at this point in time, because these are some of the components required to make some of these devastating weapons, right? So definitely they're still good. There's going to be high demand for most of these raw materials, right? Companies into metal manufacturing are also going to be making money from it, because of course these are still some components that you need in building your fighters jets, using building, China on its own has been making plans to make more warheads, more battleships, more aircraft, and this costs a lot of natural resources. This will cost a whole lot of raw materials, and of course this would also cost a whole lot when it comes to developing artificial intelligence that would power up these machines, right? This would cost a whole lot. And who at the end of the day, who is going to be making money? Those guys in the stocks market, those guys in the I can bet you for certain that there are some persons that don't want the war to end. So you could tell that okay, why is it that when one war is about to end, because like it is now, we are almost seeing the end of the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine is giving up because they know that there's no way on earth they would actually beat Russia. So Ukraine is giving up, and just at the brink at when we all thought Ukraine is going to be giving up and there's going to be a quiet in the world, all of a sudden we are having Russia, we are having Israel and Palestine war flare up, right? We're having Israel and Palestine war flare up. And don't forget, we still have some insurgents in the Middle East. We have we have what they call them, what's this their name again? I had that country at the top of my head though. But the Middle East as a whole is a hub for weapons manufacturing companies to play their games, to test their weapons, and also make sales, right? So that's why you might, in coming months, you might actually see US stocks actually keep pushing up, right? Aside that, investors are also looking at safeguarding their money by putting it into stocks rather than bet on the US currency, right? So rather than bet on the US currency. So all that would still further or instill a further increase in stocks and in gold, also in stocks and in gold. But for today, what we are just going to be looking out for is a little bit of a rebound or a little retracement of price. Price has actually been pushing up for a long time. You could see on my stochastic, it's been sitting comfortably on the overbought region. It's been sitting comfortably on the overbought region, and I think it's time for it to retrace a little. So I'd want to do this. I would want to go in for an instant sell, right? So it's going to be a short sell. Like I said, it's going to be a short sell. If you have your trend line, you could see how it has actually played out. So it's going to be a short sell for me on US 100. So I'd go in for a sell, take my profits at a price level 15382.95. 15382.95. I take my profit at around that point, and then I'd want to have my stop loss here at price level, just you could go a little bit above. So I'd want to have my stop loss at price level 15461.34. 15461.34. I'd have my stop loss at around that point. So let me give that a bright red so you're able to follow through. Okay, so that will just be my entry. It's going to just be a very short trade up until when the CPI comes out, and that will give a clear-cut direction to where stocks will be heading in general. But technically speaking, I expect that price should actually fall at least down to my 20 stochastic level. Down to my 20 stochastic level. So if you check closely on your stochastic, you could see that a death cross has been established comfortably. So that should still continue to push price down. That's on US 100. So let's also look at US 2000. For US 2000, this is on a 15 minutes time frame. Let's go to a 1 hour time frame. So on the 1 hour time frame, I think almost the same thing is actually playing out here, where you have price being rejected at this point here. So this is a 3-time rejection in recent time. a 3-time rejection, rejection 1, rejection 2, rejection 3 is actually playing out. So definitely, I still also want to stick out my neck for a sell on this particular instrument, right? I still want to stick out a sell on this particular instrument. So for the US 100, you could also decide to leave your take profit opened, right? You could also decide to leave your take profit open. I just had that take profit at the closest support, but there's every possibility that the momentum from CPI might actually push price below that take profit. So it's also a suggestion. You could leave your take profit opened and then follow price all through, right? So the same thing I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to be going in for an instant sell, right? I'm going to look at my RSI also at my overbought region, right? Expecting it to fall down to my 30 RSI level. So I'd want to go in for an instant sell, take my profit at the next support at price level 1787.8. 1787.8. I take my profit at around that point. Then of course, don't forget to have your stop loss above the resistance there at price level 1802.7. 1802.7. Have your stop loss at around that point, right? So the same thing, you could also decide to leave your take profit opened. Just have your stop loss, leave your take profit open, and then should that volatility be strong enough to keep pushing price down, you would still have the luxury of getting price at this level here, where we have the next support zone. You might have the luxury of hitting price or hitting out at this level here. So it's up to you. You could decide to use a take profit at that point, or leave your take profit opened and get to the full potential of that trade, right? So let's look at what other instruments. Let's look at what other instruments. Okay, let's look at we've looked at dollar index. I'm looking at instruments surrounding the dollar, because that's where we have the major volatility for today. Okay, let's look at AUD USD. Let's look at AUD USD. It's a currency pair. So for AUD USD, of course, I'm going to go in favor of the dollar. We don't have any high impact news coming out on AUD. So let's look at it on a daily time frame. AUD on the Australian, and this thing, we've not really been having any news. I've not seen Australia pop up in any of the news of recent, and trust me, I've been following the news quite a lot, but I've not seen Australia pop up in any of the news. So everything playing out on the chart is mostly as an influence of the dollar, either the weakness or the strength of the dollar at every point in time. So of course, I'd want to go in for a till in favor of the dollar, right? I want to go in for a till in favor of the dollar. If we had started this move in time, we would have taken an advantage of the sell trade, right? We would have taken an advantage of the sell trade at this point, right? But I still feel it would still continue to sell, right? I still feel it will still continue to sell up until this support here. I feel it will still continue to sell up until this support. But because we didn't open to this trade in time, your risk to reward ratio might actually be 1:1, right? If you look at it, your risk to reward ratio, because even if you're going to be putting your stop loss, right, you could do an instant sell, and of course, if you want to put your stop loss will be at this point here. So what you're targeting in profit would almost be closely relative to what you're going to be staking on this trade. So you could decide to take this trade if you want, or you could decide to just skip it. But I'd want to do an instant sell, take my profit at price level 0.63935, 0.63935. I put my take profit at around that point, and then put my stop loss if price breaks above this resistance. There's a resistance here before this one at the top. So I put my stop loss at above price level 0.64330, 0.64330. So you could see my risk to reward ratio is like 1:1. You're risking almost the same thing as you're willing to make on this trade, right? But if you look at it technically, also hold on, let me also add my stochastic to see how far that let me add my stochastic to see how far price has traveled, right? So okay, you can see that it has been from the oversold region, it has been coming down quite a while, and there's still room for it to get to my 20 stochastic level. So you could still key into that sell, right? You could still key into that sell, right? So that's for AUD USD, right? That's for AUD USD. Let's look at one other USD pair before we call it a wrap. we should look at USD NGN, but we all know that USD NGN is a joke of an instrument, right? It's a very big joke on very, very big joke of an instrument. So you can't actually trade on this. So let's look at this is USD NGN. You can't even see the candlestick. So that's how absurd our currency is, unfortunately for us, right? Unfortunately for some people, because some persons are actually making money off this invisibility of the dollar to naira chart, right? This is just appalling. So let's move, right? So let's look at, I think we already looked at USD JPY, and we've practically looked at most of the, okay, let's look at, okay, we've practically look, okay, let's look at US 30. Let's look at US 30 as the last of the US indices, right? So US 30, also, technically speaking, on US 30, we have a bearish engulfing at your resistance point. Bearish engulfing as a resistance point at your resistance point is a good indication for a sell trade, right? Bearish engulfing resistance point, a sell trade, very, very good sell trade. So I'm definitely going to be going in for a sell trade, having my take profits at price level. I'd have my take profit around here, because you could see that price actually struggled at this point for a while before this bottom point here. So I have my take profit at price level 33880, have my take profit at 33880, and then of course I have my very, very close stop loss if price breaks above this point at price level 34153. 34153. I have my stop loss at around that point. So, and of course, like I said, instant sell US 30, take profits before price gets to 33880, take my stop loss at 34153, right? That's my preference for US 30, and that brings up to a, okay, so that's the last instrument I'm actually going to be taking for today, right? So like I tell people every time, that's the trade signals or the money market review is just for you to understand, and that's why we take our time to do this analysis right in front of you. It's so that you know, like, it's not rocket science, right? It's not rocket science. So try as much as possible to get to understand how most of this technique works, and I can assure you, you would comfortably be able to sit down behind a chart and determine market entries that will give you good profitability margin. Okay, so the link is on YouTube. You could always rewatch this video and get to understand a couple of things that you missed out, right? I wish you a profitable time. Of course, get your account ready for CPI. CPI, I trust, is going to be a bomb. We all know, if you've traded CPI before, you all know how CPI can be, right? It's a rush trade, right? It's a rush trade that you need to key in time. You need to key in time. There's no time to be very dull when it comes to CPI, right? If you're going to be trading CPI, just make sure that before 1:30, you set everything aside and focus on the chart. Set everything aside and focus on the chart. And don't make that mistake of jumping from one chart to the other. Just in your head, select an instrument you want to focus on CPI. If it is gold, if it is US 100, if it is Euro USD, if it is US 30, just focus on one or two. Even one instrument is enough, right? Use good lot size. Don't be scared of using good lot size. Use good lot size, because it's CPI. That volatility, that fast volatility, is within a few minutes, and before you know it, the market is back to its quiet state, right? So try as much as possible to milk as much as you can from CPI, and then come share your testimony with me so that I can bill you and ask you to buy me ice cream. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.